Alright, so I gave a quick little update on the last video on the cab mounts. So, I got this one in. It's kind of dark, but it was the same concept. I had to cut out a little bit more floor to get to it. But this one, for some reason, went in quite a lot nicer. It went in and it sat pretty much exactly where it had to be. So what I find helps a lot when I put it in is I'll put the nut through it, not the nut, but the bolt that holds it in. That way, no matter what, my bolt will be aligned. And from there, I can work out flushing these ends, this end, and the same on the other side and the bottom. So I'll flush everything out. And your floor has to weld onto this. So with knowing that, you know that this part of the cab mount has to flush to this part of the floor. So that's why I keep a little lip on the floor to give me a good guide on where to go. Same thing on this side. So I flushed it out there, flushed it out there, flushed it out to the inner rocker. And then I did my first little tack there, lined it up on that side, first little tack. That way I still have some wiggle room with my welds. And from there I line it up here, take the bolt out, make sure everything's still nice and like as straight as I want it. And once that's there, a little bit of wiggling, put a tack up in here and put the bolt back in and finish tacking all of this, and then I tack underneath. So it's not too bad. That's where I need it. It's completely welded in. My jacks are off and the cab is fully attached back onto the rest of the truck, or the mounts to the frame. So now I started cutting out some floor pieces. I kept my old flooring patches that I took out for guides on how to do this, except for the big holes where I had to get up and grind off these off the cross member because it was too gone. I didn't know where the tack welds were down to the cross members, so I had to just shave it off from the bottom. Same thing on that side, but I did get that floor panel cut out approximately how it has to go. But now I've got the trans cover, got a patch that has to go there and a patch that has to go here, which is already cut. And now I'm cutting up the patches for the trans cover. So I'll do that and I'll get back to you. So here, this is one of the pieces. This is for the trans cover on the passenger side, which was pretty rotten out, so I just cut out some good metal at the same time, so I knew whatever was in the truck was good to weld onto. I have it viced onto here, approximately how it has to go. This is 18 gauge. It's about the same thing the floor is made out of. Welds nicely. So I have it clamped down. I just grab a pointed tip Sharpie and I use that to do all my lines. I trace it out, and then I just use a regular old grinder with a cutting disc or a zip cut. I cut it out, I line it up about how it has to go in the truck. If there's any trimming I have to do, then I trim it. But I like to leave a little bit more metal because it's quite a lot easier to remove metal than it is to add metal. Draw this out and I'll cut it out and I'll show you how that lines up in the truck. Here's the piece cut out. A lot of weird shapes and angles in it, but I guess that's just how I cut it out of the truck. I tried to get those shapes back in the best I can to keep my gaps as tight as possible. So obviously there's some bending to do to this because there are some curves in that. But if I line this up here, that's pretty good. So what I do for this to bend it is I'll put a couple tacks at the top and I'll clamp it down at the bottom where with just a clamp or a little tack or something that I can easily break off, and I'll start hitting it with a ball peen to get the round shape in it, and I'll get it as good as I can and I'll tack that into place with a couple tacks, slowly moving my way down as a hammer, getting the shape. So I'll see if I can get that on video, but no promises. I still got one last patch to cut before I go to that one. Okay, so after some cutting, I actually just used the piece that I had originally taken out of there. I got my first piece of flooring in. It actually went in quite nicely. Got my lines all flushed out. The welds aren't permanent or perfect, they're just tacks. Starting my way up from the top on a big angle. So I took it, and I bent it out like this to get those 3 tacks in, and then as I pushed it in, I started getting my tacks going downwards. So now it's permanently mounted there and there, so you can keep flexing it, get it flush the way you want it, put your tacks, and then you just keep making your way down. And then I grabbed a big pair of pliers, slowly making this shape, getting it flush. And because I used the original piece I cut out, I had just straightened it out, and I drew my lines with it. After I did the bend, everything just lined up perfect. So I'll get a few more tacks in, see if I like it. And unfortunately I don't have much welding wire left. I have to go pick some up tomorrow. So I'll just get a few tacks in, and I'll start tacking another piece of flooring.